Hello everyone, welcome to today's video. Today we're going to, as you can tell with the title of the video, going to be doing Psalms 139. So I'm basically going to do the entirety of Psalms. It's a good chunk, it's like 24 verses. So it might take a little while, but I think the message we can get out of it by the end of it, and the message God is really trying to put in this, will become clear, and it's a very important message. We're doing today the entirety of Psalm 139, and let's get started by reading it. Obviously, Psalm 139. This is a psalm written by David, from the director of music of David the Psalm. So it's written by this is a psalm written by David. It says, "You have searched me, Lord, and you know me. You know when I sit and when I rise. You perceive my thoughts from afar. You discern my going out and my lying down. You are familiar with all my ways. Before a word is on my tongue, you, Lord, know it completely. You hem me in before, and you lay your hand upon me. Such knowledge is too wonderful for me, too lofty to attain. Where can I go from your spirit? Where can I flee from your presence? If I go up to the heavens, you're there. If I make my bed in the depths, you are there. If I rise on the wings of the dawn, if I settle on the far side of the sea, even there your hand will guide me. Your right hand will hold me fast. If I say, surely the darkness will hide me, and the light become night around me, even the darkness will not be able to dark you, for the night will shine like the day, for darkness is as light to you. You For you created my innermost being, knit me together in my mother's womb. I praise you because I am fearfully and wonderfully made. Your works are wonderful. I know that full well. My frame was not hidden from you. When I was made in the secret place, I was woven together in the depths of the earth. Your eyes saw my unformed body. All the days of ordained for me were written in your book. Before one of them came to me, how precious to me are your thoughts. How vast is the sum of them, where I count them. They would outnumber the grains of sand. When I awake, I am still with you. If only God would slay away from me you who are bloodthirsty. They speak of you with evil intent. Your adversaries misuse your name. Do I not hate those who hate you, Lord, and abhor those who are in rebellion against you? I have nothing but hatred for them. I count them my enemies. Search me, God, and know that my heart, and test me, and know my anxious thoughts. So if there is any offensive way in me, and lead me in the way everlasting." So in total, so if I ever look there by the way, once again, if you haven't seen the previous video, I've got a tiny desk. My laptop doesn't fit. My laptop has my notes, so that's if I ever look that way, that is why. So yes, basically in total, Psalms 139 is kind of almost like a prayer to examine the heart in its devotion, especially by the end, about what the heart is truly for. And the rest of the chapter is all about God's unesteemed awareness of you as his creation. He just, sorry, not my eye, knows you completely, and he just knows everything there is to know about you. So that's kind of once again, expresses basically the awareness God has and of us and our soul, and asks us to help us examine the soul, which I think's kind of an incredibly important thing that it ends off with, because it in the psalm, when you first read it, it feels like at the end it just completely changes its tone and message, but the more you read, the more you understand, you realize it's kind of one overarching message. So yeah, so let's get started. So if you haven't watched any of these before, basically I'm gonna go through um the verses and what they mean. A lot of them quite conjoined together, so it's a bit easier. But and then I'm gonna go into what I think the message overall is afterwards. So verses 1 to 6 is trying to kind of basically show that he knows he's aware of God everything. God is just aware of, I'm not my mic again, absolutely everything that there is to do with you. He knows your every thought, action, movement. He's aware of the good things you do, the bad things you do. He's aware of all your thoughts. He just understands you. And this isn't. Oh, I lost the page, but this isn't done in like a creepy way. It's done in the way it's written, and the truth is that it's done in a how wonderful you are, you God, that you know me so well, for you created me. And it just kind of batters that home. Just they do it in a way in a set that makes you go, "How wonderful are you, God, that you know me this well." So that's what I think those are trying to say. That it's just supposed to unashamedly show you how wonderful he is, how much knowledge he's gotten you. And 7 to 11 basically describes different ways of how there is no hiding from God, and you cannot escape God, and if you try, you fail, which is a very important thing to remember, because some people try to run away from God. They think if they run away, they'll be fine. But the truth of the matter is, we can't run away from God. It's just not possible. So we can't just run away from God. He is unrunawayable. That's not even a word, but you get my point. He's unescapable. You cannot escape him. He will find it, and one day you will have to meet him face to face. And I keep knocking my mic. And you will have to bear witness to him at some point. There's no escaping who God is. And 13 to 18 are mainly about how you created me in my mother's womb. You have that much care and attention to me, and it shows how he knows you so thoroughly, that he knows you and helped put you together within and in the womb, and he planned you before even that. So it just kind of shows his awareness and how thoroughly he plans out to create you, and how important he views you as a creation of his. And the verse 13, you create my innermost being. So he created us and he knows us, and it kind of shows how this is God kind of knows us immediately what are morally what we're like, because he knows that innermost being from the very beginning, and just the complete love he has. But he also knows you when it says you have knit my innermost, for you created my innermost being. Uh, it just kind of shows you know me deep inside and who I am. And verse 14 says, "Dear honey, I praise you because I'm fearfully and wonderfully made. Your works are wonderful, and I know that full well." And words like fearfully, wonderfully, and wonderful, those kind of words, are used to describe how we can't even comprehend this creation. How amazing it is, how God views us as a creation, that we're fearfully and wonderfully made. But it's also trying to say that creation of human is also uncomprehendable. Because if you ever read anything about how your brain works, especially, it just boggles your brain. Like, how is this even possible to happen by accident? So it kind of shows how we're complex, and the fearfully side, like how we can't even comprehend how God even came up with all the things with our body, especially the brain. But we're also wonderfully made, each and every human. So that verse encapsulates both the powerful God and how he can even create humans, and how much he loves us and views us as a great part of his creation. Uh, so yeah, verse 15 is mainly about verse 15 mentions about the words phrases like secret place and depths of the earth are references to the womb. So it continues this idea that God thoroughly planned you and created you so carefully in the womb, and before that it kind of settles that point. And verse 16, when it says, "Yep, your eyes saw my unformed body. All the days ordained for me were written in your book before one of them came to be." Ordain basically means life and events are the same. Like, God has determined God knows everything, and he knows if you're a believer, the path he wants to go to. He already knows that. He already knows the path he wants you to follow. Whether we each as people choose to live that path is up to us, but God has already determined the best life for us, and that could be, I guess, assurance when you're not sure what your next future life is. What's next in your life? You can be sure that God has planned out the best place for you. So as a Christian, that brings hope. I believe that you don't have to worry too much because God is there. So verses 17 and 18 kind of talk about this idea about how precious God's thoughts are precious, and what He views us and the love He kind of views us is precious. Because it says, "How precious to me are your thoughts, God! How vast is the sum of them. Where I were I to count them, they would I number the grains of sands. When I awake, I am still with you." So it just shows how God views the world, how God thinks. It's just precious because it's the right way to view life. He just knows it. He just knows what's right, wrong. He knows the best. He knows the best in general. So he knows. He just knows everything, and because his thoughts are precious to us, how he views us is precious. So it kind of nails that home, and kind of 19 to 24 are kind of talking about his unwavering loyalty and his distrust and his almost kind of deep-rooted hatred for people who don't believe in God, who make fun of his name, misuse it, and it kind of just really goes deep into how he views it. And although we have to love one another and be respectful of each other, there should be a part of our soul that almost does get offended when people offend God, not offend us, but God, because we praise God and we love God. So there has to be a part, I believe, a part of that. Of course, we don't be rude back or anything that's not godly, but there has to be a part of us that doesn't think that's okay and doesn't think that's right, and I believe that it's wrong to say stuff about God in that way. There should be a part of us that feels like that as believers. And verses 23 and 24 are all about asking God to examine the heart and help me examine the heart. So if there's any offensive in my way, see if there's anything offensive in my way that I can get rid of to be fully into you. Because it says, "Search me, God, and know my heart. Test me and know my anxious thoughts. See if there's any offensive way in me and lead me in the way everlasting." So it talks about how David is asking him, God, to examine me and help him examine himself and help see where his devotion to you lies and keep his name true to him. And if there's anything he needs to get rid of to fulfill his life as with a relationship with God, help me realize it so I can try and get rid of it. And it kind of shows his unwavering loyalty, but also the importance of he finds the importance of examining himself, which is kind of the main message I want to get out of this. Sorry. That it's important that we also examine ourselves to ensure that we stay true to God, because the way life works is that we, as I talked about in my Bible talk for Revelation, we can drift away, we can diminish our view of God. So it also we've got to find ways to stay true to what we believe. We also got to continue to examine our hearts and make sure we've not moved into anything that's sinful and wrong. We need to examine ourselves and our relationship with God. So if there's anything we need to change, we can change it before it's too late. Because if you realize it kind of too late, you might have already stepped out of the religion, like something terrible could have happened. If you realize what you need to work on now by asking God and also in yourself, examining who you are in terms of your relationship with God, that will make things a load much more easier. And this is something the Bible does warn about. I'll end with two Bible verses that I found that talk about examining yourself in our ways to make sure we live for God in Jesus. First one is 2 Corinthians chapter 13, verse 5. And it says, "Examine yourself to see whether you are in faith. Test yourself. Do not realize that Jesus Christ is in you, unless, of course, you fail the test." Oh, I read that wrong. So it's, "Do you not realize that Jesus Christ is within you, unless, of course, you fail the test?" So it talks about that, how you got to test yourself and really test and examine yourself to see if you are for God in your heart. And if you're not, then you have to make the decision to fix your heart up to view God, or you can make the decision to leave. Obviously, Christians believe the right decision is to fix your heart towards God. But it reminds us that we have to continue examining ourselves and test ourselves to make sure that we're staying for God and that we truly are for God. The final Bible verse I found was Lamentations chapter 3, verse 14. It says, "Let us examine our ways and test them, and let us return to the Lord." So it's once again highlighted, if I examine my ways and how I am as a believer in God, and I fix them, and then we could let us return to the Lord. So it's like, if we realize this moment victory, we can return to God, because God is patient. If it takes you a while to realize this, and when you finally do, you realize you've actually drifted away from God, God will open your back with open arms, which is why I think the let us return to the Lord part is key, because no matter how long you realize that you've not tested yourself and realize you've gone quite far, but if you open yourself back, God will welcome you back with open arms. So yeah, that's all I kind of want to say. Those are all my thoughts on this. I do hope you enjoyed. If you did, I don't usually like doing these kind of videos, but if you do like, subscribe to the channel and stuff, it just means my videos get out more and they get out to more people. So you kind of have to do that with YouTube, because that's just how it works. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed what I had to say about this and this psalm, and I hope to see you on the next one. Bye.